Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, it is a story now that I want to give people on social media 1,000% credit, because the corporate media, the corrupt fake news media, has done everything in its power to try to suppress and bury this story that now on the internet, I mean, it has set the internet and social media ablaze. So here is now exactly what happened. In Charlotte, North Carolina, local authorities, to their eternal shame, and I'm going to name them now, I want to call them out, the corrupt mayor of Charlotte, a Democrat, the corrupt judge that allowed this murderer to be free, I'm calling her out, another Democrat hack. The governor, the Democrat governor of North Carolina, Josh Stein, did everything in their power to suppress the video footage that shows one of the most horrific, horrendous murders ever committed. Ever committed. And they did it because they didn't want the media to report on it, because they want to lie to the American people and bury the fact that crime in this country is out of control, that we have a problem with the mentally ill, the violently mentally ill, and that, yes, there is a problem with black-on-white crime. And so, to suppress all of this, literally, they tried to bury the footage and not release it, and then when they released it, they convinced local media outlets to not play it. Well, it finally got out. And so, last month, on August 22nd, and the tape doesn't lie, you can see it clearly in the video footage, a black man, an African-American, with a rap sheet as long as my arm. His name is DeCarlos Brown Jr. He has been arrested since 2007. He has been arrested over a dozen times. From assault to armed robbery to larceny, I could go on and on and on. He is apparently a homeless man who suffers, according to local officials, from violent schizophrenia. And yet, the magistrate judge released him again onto the streets early. And what did he do? He was on a light rail train in Charlotte. Rather than being locked up, which is what he should have been, he was allowed to roam the streets. And he was in a train, light rail train. You can see the video footage. He is sitting down. And then a woman, a Ukrainian refugee, if you can believe this poor 23-year-old girl, I say girl affectionately, this poor 23-year-old woman who fled the war in Ukraine to come to America as a legal refugee to the United States. Apparently she was a responsible, hardworking person, a legal immigrant, trying to make something of her life here, having fled the war with Russia in her native Ukraine. She then walks onto the train, into the rail car. Now, and I want to stress this point, she didn't say a word to DeCarlos Brown. She had a baseball cap on. She had a phone. She was scrolling on her phone, unprovoked, completely unprovoked. She sits in front of him, okay, in the seat in front of him. And she's looking at her phone and she's scrolling. And on the video footage, you want to talk about an unprovoked, absolutely senseless crime. You can see DeCarlos Brown. He's got mental health issues. Wee-oo. Okay, the schizophrenia is kicking in. Wee-oo. He's fidgeting. He's emotional. He's shifting from seat to seat, back and forth. She's oblivious to all of this because she's sitting in front of him. He then coldly and callously pulls out his pocket knife, unfolds the knife, and then stands up and then stabs her in the throat once, twice, 3 times. Now, maybe the most horrific thing of all, because the video then shows the shock on Zarutska's face, the blood pouring out of her neck, and then she literally collapses on the floor. He killed her. He killed her. He then walks away after he stabbed her 3 times in the neck. She collapses to the floor. You have witnesses, bystanders, who saw the whole thing and did nothing. They did nothing. And the Carlos Brown is then walking around the rail car with the pocket knife. The blood is dripping off the pocket knife. Zarutska's blood is dripping off the pocket knife, falling on the floor. And everybody's like, ooh, what's this? Let me avoid the blood. Ooh, you can see the passengers. Ooh, I don't want the blood to soil my shoes. While this poor woman is on the ground, bleeding to death. They finally arrested him the next day. The next day. Irina Zalutska was barely 23 years old. She survived the war in Ukraine. She fled the war in Ukraine, only to be murdered here in the United States. And one of the most appalling things in all of this, and this now needs to be said, is that scumbag mayor of Charlotte, Democrat, went out and publicly, after this video now was released and everybody's outraged, and it's going like wildfire on social media. And everyone's like, my God, this is a horrific, cold-blooded, unprovoked, senseless murder. And how come we're only finding out about this now? And why is the media deliberately not covering this? Where's This is CNN? Where's MSNBC? Where's CBS News, ABC News, NBC News? Where's the New York Times? Where's the Washington Post? Where's the Associated Press? Because if this was a white man who stabbed a black woman on a railway car, completely unprovoked and senselessly, this would be wall-to-wall coverage. Wall-to-wall coverage. It would be 24/7. Instead, let's sweep it under the rug. Nothing to see here. The mayor of Charlotte, if you can believe this, now that the video is out there, now that there's this firestorm on social media, and now local media outlets are being pressured by viewers and listeners saying, why aren't you reporting on this? Haven't you seen the video? And now they can't contain the story. She releases a statement thanking the media for weeks and weeks not releasing the footage. Apparently out of respect for Zarutska's family. That was her supposed argument. No, because what they're upset about is the crime of noticing. You're not supposed to notice these things. You're not supposed to comment on these things. You're not supposed to report on these things because it goes against the entire Democrat narrative. This incident, this videotape shows beyond a shadow of a doubt there's no crime problem in America? Are you crazy? Are you insane? This is what the Democrats are trying to tell us under Trump. That there's no problem in Washington, D.C. There's no problem in Chicago. There's no problem in L.A. or New York or Atlanta. And yes, in Charlotte, North Carolina. When the videotape shows the exact opposite. It made it all the way to the White House. And President Trump saw the footage, and he is absolutely horrified, and I don't blame him. Listen now to President Trump saying we've got to do something because crime in this country is clearly now out of control. Here is Trump speaking at the Museum of the Bible. Roll cut 1, a mic.
There are evil people. We're all people of religion, but there are evil people, and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
He's right. I'm telling you, we have to stop this out of control crime or else we're not going to have a country. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man 70470 70470. This is from 802, and 802 makes an absolutely, brilliant point. Jeff, where are all those losers with their Ukrainian flags on their Twitter bios? Where is their outrage? And by the way, she was an immigrant that was here legally. Well, you see, that's why the libs don't care. Because this woman, Irina Zalutska, from Ukraine, was a legal immigrant, a refugee, to the United States, was a law-abiding citizen from everything we've read about, we've been reading about her, held down a job, paid her taxes, worked hard. So, no, if you're not an illegal, they're not interested. If this was an illegal that was killed, this would be then 24/7 saturation coverage. Then the media would care. Come on, this is, hey, that's a legal immigrant. Who cares? Now, there are several, I think, very important angles here. Okay, and I think this is why the media is desperately trying to suppress this story. Number one, when you look at that horrific video footage, and it is truly horrific, crime is clearly out of control. There's no question. Okay, there's just no question. Don't tell me we don't have a crime problem in the United States. That to me is issue number one. Issue number two, and this is the problem now that we're facing in city after city after city. And Trump mentioned this several weeks ago. It is, I think, time to bring back institutionalization, the way we used to have in this country prior to the late 60s, early 1970s. We cannot keep allowing the violently mentally ill. I'm not talking about people who suffer from depression or whatever, they're bipolar or no, that's treated easily with medication and some help and therapy. Okay? So I'm not, or PTSD or nothing like that. I'm talking about generally, they're violently schizophrenic. These are people, I'll give you an example. This guy, DeCarlos Brown. His last arrest, among all of his arrests that go back to almost 20 years, okay, this is a career criminal, was apparently there was a wellness check being performed on him because he's homeless. So he's in and out of shelters. And he called 911 and he got arrested for misusing the 911 emergency system. Why did he call 911, you may ask? Because he kept going on, according to the police report, that he had a quote-unquote man-made material inside of him. That's what he was telling them. There's some man-made material inside of him, and it's controlling his movements, and that he can't control himself. So why is he going around hitting and assaulting people? He can't control himself. Why is he going around urinating everywhere or defecating everywhere? Forgive me, it's 6 a.m, but that's what this guy was doing. And because he says there's these man-made, he calls the police to say, I've got man-made materials inside of me. And they're like, no, dude, you got to see a doctor. There's no man-made material. There hasn't been some kind of a possession or some kind of a alien spaceship has come down and possessed you or something. No, you're not right in the head. You need help. The point being, this guy was clearly severely mentally ill, who lashed out at everyone and anything and was a menace. Now, we've got to deal with the violently mentally ill. There are too many people who are homeless, who are on drugs or alcohol or abusing substances, who need therapy because they suffer from schizophrenia or whatever it may be, and they are deadly. They are absolutely dangerous and deadly. And the bodies now are starting to pile up. Now, so it has nothing to do with gun control. Notice, there was no gun used in this one. It was a pocket knife and 3 stabs to the neck, and that's it. She was finished. Notice, the libs aren't talking about knife control. Have you noticed that? So it doesn't fit their narrative. Now, the final point, and then I want to open it up to the phone lines. The judge in the case, a federal magistrate judge, her name is Teresa Stokes. Don't take my word for it. Please look it up. Stokes. She's the one, a Democrat hack, a moonbat judge. She's the one that released DeCarlos Brown early. He was locked up. He was a menace to no one in the public. He couldn't threaten any innocent citizen, law-abiding innocent citizen. He was behind bars. She let him out back onto the streets early. And she did it because he gave her a quote-unquote promise that he would come back to court for his alleged court date. So she took the promise, I swear to you, the quote-unquote promise. Apparently it was a written promise. Ooh, you mean he wrote it on paper? Really? Okay, so she goes, yeah, it's a written promise. And now Zarutska is dead. Irina Zarutska is dead. I can't tell you how many times these woke, moonbat, leftist judges have allowed violent criminals to go back onto the streets, who then go on to commit heinous crimes, who murder, who rape, who molest. They're like predators, and they just allow them back, and there are never any consequences for the judge. This needs to change. There is a bill now being pushed by a Congressman, Randy Fine, that now says if a judge releases a criminal back onto the streets before they're supposed to be released, then that judge should be held accountable if that criminal commits a violent crime. Okay, one very, very quick final point, and then I want to go to the blazing phone lines, 617-266-6868. According to The Blaze, okay, this is, I think, Glenn Beck's outfit, his media outlet. According to The Blaze, they say that the animal that stabbed Irina Zalutska, the Carlos Brown, that criminal, can be heard after he killed her in cold blood, with the blood dripping off of his knife, can be heard saying, quote, "I got that white girl," unquote. Now, other media outlets are not corroborating this. But if that's true, if it's true, then this was a clear hate crime. It's a clear hate crime. It's not just black on white crime. It's he deliberately killed her because she was white. And my suspicion, and it's only a suspicion, I'm not saying I have any definitive proof, But my suspicion is that the mayor of Charlotte knows this, that the local media in Charlotte knows this, that the Democrat governor of North Carolina knows this, and that's why they've done everything in their power over the last several weeks to try to repress and suppress this story. Because you see, the official narrative is only whites can be racist. Only whites are the KKK. Only whites go around attacking people because of the color of their skin. It can never be the other way around. So, anyway, we'll see as this story now gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, I want to ask all of you really a couple of very important questions, and then I want to go to the phone lines. Best audience in the business. Number one, what do you make of this horrific murder? Why do you think the corporate media has been so determined not to discuss this story, not to even mention it? What are they afraid of? What are they really trying to cover up? And do we have a problem with the violently mentally ill? And is it time to bring back institutionalization, put these people in mental wards as we used to before the 60s and 70s? I'm telling you personally, I think it's time to institutionalize these people because the crime, the violence, the murder, the mayhem, the havoc, the carnage, it's out of control. 617-266-6868. Okay, lines are jammed. Mike, who do you want me to go to first? Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Oh, the Moonbats are out in full force today, Bruce. No question about it. Bruce,
right, so
have you seen the footage? I'm just curious. Have you seen the footage? And what do you make of the story?
I haven't, but the president has. I have not, Jeff. I've been working, doing my thing. But the whole thing of it is, we need to institutionalize these judges that let these people out. And let me rant, because I'm telling you, what happened to you is what happened to her. No one did nothing. You fell down those stairs. Thank God you got here and got, well. Everybody missed you. Sandy and Mike did a very nice job while you were gone. And we missed you. And I couldn't get on yesterday. But when I heard about this, now, there's a death penalty. This guy, because he's mentally ill, they're not going to kill him. But he shouldn't have been out on the street, that judge. Trump's going to go after her. He's going to go after her. And you're right about if that was a white guy that stabbed a black girl. Are you kidding me, Jeff? This is sick. Everything.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, Bruce, you're dead on. Look, if that was, let's just flip it. If that was a violently mentally ill white man, okay, who stabbed a black 23-year-old woman in the neck 3 times, completely unprovoked. I mean, so unprovoked, it's disgusting, frankly. Okay, it's so disgusting. You'd see riots. I'm telling you, there'd be rioting. Black Lives Matter would be rioting. Antifa would be rioting. The media would be going apoplectic. Oh, my God. This would be the biggest story in the world. But because she happens to be white from Ukraine and he's black, suddenly let's not even report on it. Let's pretend like it didn't happen. And the most amazing thing, Bruce, and I'm going to give you the last word, I promise. The most amazing thing is the mayor, I can read you her statement. The Democrat mayor of Charlotte, okay? She comes out and says, I thank the media for not reporting on this story. Thank you. Thank you for not sharing video footage, like keeping it, covered up, swept under the rug over the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, so what's wrong is not the murder? What's wrong is that you notice there was a murder? You notice that this animal killed that innocent poor woman? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, where did she get her license to be a judge? Seriously, what, in a Cracker Jack box? The judge that lets her loose? The mayor, how did that mayor get elected? And again, I want to go back to your point about the judge. I think Trump is going to go Thunderdome on that judge, and he should. He should. She had no right to release this guy. Look, I'm all for forgiveness. You know me, Bruce. I'm a devout Catholic. I'm a devout Christian. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in redemption. I know many, many people who have turned their lives around. And to be even more brutally honest, I've known some criminals who are big fans of the show who listened to me in jail, I swear to you, and turned their life around. And they hold down good jobs. They're now law-abiding citizens. They've gotten married. They have families. They have children. Believe me, I know second and third chances work, and they happen, but not this guy. When you're doing this for 20 years, and you've been either arrested or imprisoned or indicted over a dozen times, and you're going on about man-made materials inside your body, forcing you to go around and attacking people and urinating on the streets, you need help. Like, you need serious psychiatric help. And she just cavalierly, this judge, this Cracker Jack box judge, just cavalierly lets him out on the street, back onto the streets, on the promise, yeah, he'll make his court date. No. We've got to end cashless bail. There should have been bail on this guy, I don't know, $500,000. And you keep him locked up until he goes to his court date. Then at his court date, he's found guilty. Then you sentence him and you put people like him behind bars. Really, it's not rocket science. You want to stop crime? Put cops on the street and put criminals in jail. It's really easy. More police, not less, more police, and lock these criminals up and keep them locked up. Final word to you, Bruce.
All right, Jeff. My final word is, she came here from Ukraine legally to escape danger, and that judge put her in. She's responsible for her death. That poor girl came here.
I agree. No, Bruce, you're right. You're absolutely right. Look, the judge, again, is Judge Teresa Stokes. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. Should the judge that released the Carlos Brown, this savage killer, this murderer, he's caught on tape. You can't get more cut and dried than that. Is the judge partially responsible? In many ways, almost as responsible as the killer himself for the death of that poor Ukrainian refugee woman, Irina Zarutska? I say yes. And let me ask a follow-up question. Should these judges who release criminals early, put them back out on the streets, violent offenders, should they be held accountable, responsible, if they commit a dangerous, heinous crime? I think they should. I think they've been doing this for way too long. They seem to not care about the consequences of their actions. And it's we, the public, that continue to pay for their absolute negligence. And I got to tell you, almost their amorality. How you could allow this animal back onto the street is beyond me. Seriously, is beyond me. It is reckless to the point that it's, to me, criminal. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. This is a fascinating statistic. I didn't know it was this bad. This is from a friend of mine who is a big fan of the show. Anyway, 617, and this is what he writes to me. Jeff, did you know that 1 in every 22 black men in America will commit murder in their lifetime? Wow. Wow. Black men, who make up only 6% of the population, commit 51% of the murders in America. Now, that second statistic I knew. That one I knew. But the first one, that 1 in every 22 black men in America will commit murder in their lifetime. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. We have to address the root causes of this. To me, I think it's the breakdown of the family, to be honest, and the social pathologies that come with it, and the lack of morality, the lack of God. We don't teach right and wrong anymore. We don't inculcate a conscience in people, and this man clearly had no conscience. That, to me, I think is the scariest thing when you watch the video footage. He's sitting in the railway car, and he's agitated. You can see that. He's going, shifting back and forth, one seat to the next, one seat to the next. And then she walks in with a baseball cap. She's scrolling through her phone, and she didn't even look at him. She didn't say a word to him. She just, literally, it's think of a young, petite female with blonde hair, a baseball cap, holding a phone, scrolling through it, and she just walks right by him, almost doesn't even notice him, and then sits in front of him. And she's just sitting there, scrolling through her phone. And then you see him, he's agitated, he's moving, and then he just pulls out his pocket knife. Like he's about to eat a sandwich. Or, sip on a Diet Coke. Or munch on a chocolate bar. And he unfolds the pocket knife. And then he's a big guy. He's a very big guy. And he stands up. And then it's almost demonic. And then with the knife, boom, boom, boom. 3 stabs all in the neck, right in the throat. And then you see her face like she's absolutely in shock and horror. And then she collapses and falls to the ground. There's blood everywhere. Blood is dripping from his knife. And then he so nonchalantly, so effortlessly, just like he's going to go to the bathroom or something. He just walks away. And he's walking through the railway car. You can see there are bystanders. They've seen this. And nobody does anything. Literally, they're just watching. And they're more concerned that the blood dripping from his blade is going to fall on their shoes. So as he's walking past them, ooh, let me move aside so I don't get the blood on my shoes or on my pants. So, anyway, it's unbelievable. It really is. It's absolutely unbelievable. And maybe, I'm not blaming her. Please don't take this the wrong way. But you got to be aware of your surroundings. As I'm watching the video, I'm like, oh, man, maybe if you weren't looking on the phone. Again, she did nothing wrong. She's 1,000% innocent. She's not to blame in any way, shape, or form. I'm just giving a human reaction to this. I'm thinking, I'm sure if she saw him, with the way he's twitching and moving and getting all emotional, and they say, this guy is clearly disturbed. Let me go sit somewhere else. But, she's on her phone. And she was a sitting duck. She had no chance. She was utterly vulnerable. And that coward picked the most vulnerable person on that train. It was deliberate. There's no question it was deliberate. 617-266-6868. Listen now to President Trump saying, we're going to have to do something. This can no longer stand. Roll cut to Mike.
And there was also a horrible killing recently in Charlotte, where I talked about, and so many others, and we're going to get to the end of it. And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. And the actions that we take are nothing. This cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and killing again. Cashless bail.
He's right. That was cashless bail. She let him out. He's completely right. And I want to read a text. This is from 603, and I think 603 hits the nail right on the head. Jeff, we have another name for these leftist activist judges. We call them Soros judges, because that's exactly who's behind getting these judges installed around the country. Just like Soros DAs. It's the same operation. Bingo. And so the district attorneys won't prosecute criminals and crime, including, by the way, murderers and drug dealers and gangbangers and rapists and child molesters. Okay? And if they do, by some miracle, these judges, like this one, Teresa Stokes, just lets them out onto the streets. And you know who pays the price? Decent, law-abiding, innocent civilians. So again, the system is rigged in favor of criminals, whether it's illegal aliens or the violently mentally ill, or take your pick. Enough is enough. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Well, this is just another piece of evidence as to what's wrong with this country, and we've done this to ourselves. We just, we had a bad murder similar to this in L.A. a few years ago when a nice blonde woman was working in a furniture store all by herself to help out a friend when a black man walked in, and she felt uncomfortable. She texted her friend, and the next thing you know, he stabbed her 50 times to death. And everybody's probably forgotten about that, just like we've already forgotten about the church murder of those kids. And that's going to happen here again. And you remember in New York when Daniel Penny, a Marine hero, turned around and they had a guy just like this threatening women, and then he turned around and put him in a chokehold. The guy died, and what did they do in New York? They prosecuted him. And this thing about I got a white girl. Rob Schmidt's got that because the video that you see is the video that's on the bus. So that's where they got it. They have the soundtrack. Rob Schmidt had it on his show last night. So it's definitely a hate crime. A white woman. A white girl walked in and became his target, and he's nothing but an animal. And you say the judge that just let him out. How about the other 16 judges that let him out? Okay, 16. His mother even screamed that this man didn't belong on the street because he beat his sister to a pulp. I mean, we just do this to ourselves, and the only one who's partially responsible for this murder is Putin, because of what he did to Ukraine that forced this poor young girl to come to America where she thought she was safe. In Europe and probably in Ukraine, they don't have things like that on their buses or their trains, so that's why she thought she's probably safe, because she brings her values here. And this stunning woman could have done anything. Instead, she didn't want welfare. She didn't want aid. She took a menial job at a pizzeria. That's the kind of people we want in this country. And look what we do to them. And you've left out black mayor, black judges, and a black chief of police, all making excuses. and all the mayor cared about was getting this on the media, and we've heard that story before. It's the media to blame. It's showing these crimes. It's to blame. No, we're to blame because we put up with this media, we put up with this crime, and we keep letting it go on and on and on. It's the same old story. Well, when is enough enough? You know, I guess it's just what America has become. Okay, and I've told you, I can't tell you how many times, because I grew up with street sense, growing up in the streets, and I grew up where I got you need two educations in life. You need a street education, and you need an education from school, and you need both, believe me, and especially today. And I've told you time and time again, Jeff, and I say it to you because you have a wonderful wife and you have wonderful children. You are not safe anywhere, and the only people who get prosecuted are the innocent people. They get murdered, okay, and they get prosecuted. But the guilty go free. And as far as Black Lives Matter goes, they don't exist anymore because they're too busy sipping champagne and all the mansions that they bought with the money that they stole, and not one of them got prosecuted. It's about time we decided to have our movement. White Lives Matter.
You're on fire. Arthur, I'm telling you, you're on absolute fire. Arthur, I've got to ask you, and I know it's very insensitive, it's very politically incorrect, but we have to ask it if we're going to be serious about solving this problem. You mentioned the fact that the judge that let him out is black. True. That the mayor is black. True. That the police chief is black. True. Is there a problem in the black community in terms of racial tribalism, whereby there's a lot of anti-Semitism? We know that. Look at Farrakhan, look at Al Sharpton, look at Jesse Jackson, look at so many of look at Ayanna Pressley, just look at many of their so-called leaders, and I put leaders in quotation marks. They're Jew haters. Many of them are Jew haters. Is there an anti-white racism that is being now inculcated in the black community? And that's why we're starting to see more of these black-on-white crimes. I'm just curious. What's your take on that?
Oh, it's been there for the longest time. It's been there for the last 30 years, Jeff. And to be honest with you, as much as there's black-on-white crime, it's even worse with black-on-black crime. As bad it is for black-on-white, it's worse for black-on-black. And these black leaders, they're the worst of them all. They don't do anything for their people. And that's the one thing I always said about Barack Obama. 8 years, and Chicago never got any better, and that's where he came from. That's how despicable these people are. When you don't take care of, do a little more for your own, if they've been oppressed. But you know what? They're not oppressed anymore. They're nothing but criminals. If you look at the mugshots of this guy, the guy that killed the intern in Washington, those three guys, you keep looking at the same mugshots. You know what? Aside from the fact that they're black, they all have the same kind of look. Okay? Dregs, and they're all part of gangs. It's about time that we're at war with these gangs. And we're not taking it serious. How can we be taking it serious if this guy's on 60 times? And his mother even wanted him off the street.
Oh, that's a brilliant point. No, you're completely right. You're absolutely right. He beat his sister to this guy, the Carlos Brown, all right, this animal. He beat his sister to a pulp. He beat her black and blue. He beat her within an inch of her life. His own mother. You know what? Your own mother. You know the old expression, even Hitler had a mother, right? Like, well, I guess somebody loved him. Maybe his mother loved him, right? I mean, when your own mother comes out and says, lock him up, please lock him up. He's a menace to me. He's a menace to his siblings. He's a menace to everybody. Lock him up. And they won't lock him up. We've got a problem. Dynamite call. As always, Arthur, dynamite. Thank you very much for that call. Look, that's why Trump is now talking about a massive crime crackdown. Chicago is now in his sights. I'm going to get to this a little bit later in the show, but he now wants to send in potentially even the National Guard to get this crime problem under control. He's succeeded in Washington, D.C. It works. He sent in the National Guard troops. Guess what? The murder rate plummeted. Homicides way down. Muggings, burglaries, robberies, drug dealing, you name it, all across the board. Crime has gone down substantially. Even Democrats are admitting they can actually go out and enjoy dinner in Washington now with their spouse or their girlfriend or partners or whatever. So it works. And Trump is now saying, I want to do the same thing for Chicago, for New York, for Atlanta, for Boston, for L.A., and yes, for Charlotte. But Chicago now is priority numero uno. Now, very quickly, very, very quickly, this story is not getting the same attention that the brutal murder of this Irina Zarutska, this poor Ukrainian refugee, is getting, because it doesn't have footage. The footage is so horrifying, it so shocks you, that I think that's a reason why this story has just exploded on social media. But there is another story, and it's just as bad. Now, and very quickly, I don't want this poor woman to be forgotten. A beloved, retired Auburn University professor, and apparently she was loved by everybody at Auburn University, not just her colleagues, former students, friends, people who knew her. She was brutally murdered. Again, black man, probably severely mentally ill, violently mentally ill. Her name is Dr. Julie Gard Schnuel. If I'm mispronouncing her last name, my apologies. And so apparently she was walking in Kiesel Park, which is right near Auburn University. She was a retired veterinary professor. She had been there for a very, very long time. She was now enjoying her retirement, still had some connection to the university, a little bit of teaching, a little bit of research, but mostly now she was retired. And almost every day she would run with her dog in this wooded area in the park. Well, on Saturday afternoon, just a couple days ago, there she was again with her dog running in the park. This time, however, someone was waiting for him. Sorry, waiting for her, forgive me. 28-year-old Harold Rashad Dabney III, who apparently lives in Montgomery, Alabama. He waited for her. He wanted to kill her. It was a deliberate, premeditated murder. He apparently violently attacked her and then apparently hacked her up. Same thing. Vicious stabbing. For no reason. Utterly unprovoked. Black on white hate crime. The body was badly was badly mangled. He had cut it up to pieces. The man's a savage. Police finally arrived on the scene. The dog was right beside Dr. Schnell. So he was loyal to his master or her master to the end. The dog did not leave. The dog is fine. Nothing happened to the dog. But that dog was guarding or trying to protect the body. He saw that his master or her master had fallen to the ground, and he was there beside her the whole time. He never left. Now, another senseless killing. She was 59 years old. 59 years old. And had devoted her career to the University of Auburn and to the study of animals. And now she's dead. She's dead. So even at Auburn University, which is a very prestigious university, and apparently the campus is known to be safe, or at least it was safe, you're not safe anymore. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Have you ever been the victim of a crime? I mean, we clearly now, there's no question, there is an epidemic of crime now. Trump is talking about a massive crackdown on crime and criminals. He wants even to bring the National Guard into many big cities across the country. Have you been the victim of a crime? I can tell I have. I've had my wallet stolen, for example. I've been burglarized. So, yeah, I've been the victim of a crime. Thank the Lord it wasn't a violent crime, but I've been the victim of crime. No question about it. So my question to you, have you ever been the victim of a crime? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Okay, let me ask the general question. Do you believe we need a crackdown on crime and criminals? Do you support Trump's effort now to start putting criminals in jail and impose law and order? And the horrific murder in Charlotte, North Carolina. Why is the media afraid to report on it? Why did they try to cover it up? And are you now afraid to say, go on a bus, go on a light rail, go in the subway? Are you afraid because the streets are no longer safe? 617-266-6868 is the number. Daryl in Georgia. Thanks for holding, Daryl, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Glad you're back.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to say something like when I called a couple weeks ago that I said people won't like, but this kind of goes back to what Sandy, when I called on last week while you were gone, when Sandy was talking about. What the problem is in the black community is the Democratic Party is all these cities, they're so lenient, and they're letting the criminals right back out. And that's the reason why the media won't report on these things, is because it's going to admit failure. The Democratic Party is failing the black community, and they're not failing. They already failed them. And that's the problem. The problem is that they don't want to admit these things. They want to just let it go. And as far as your poll question today, yeah, in Chicago, I was a victim of violent crime. Yeah, I got jumped. It was 5 against 1, and they kept calling me the punk because I couldn't beat them up. You know, but it's going to stay this way.
Daryl, I got to ask you. You know, it's coming out now. It's everywhere. I've been looking online, and so more and more people are saying, no, it's true. He did say after he stabbed that Ukrainian woman 3 times in the neck, this guy DeCarlos Brown, that he said, I got that white woman. Where does that come from? Where does it come from? This kind of, not all blacks, obviously, it's a minority, but among these criminals who prey on, this black on white crime, where does that come from? This virulent hatred for white people, to the point that you just senselessly, this woman did nothing to him. She just sat in front of him. That's all she did. And before you know it, it's, three stabs to the throat and she's dead. Where does that kind of virulent hatred come from?
Jeff, like I said, growing up on the west side of Chicago, I grew up in a bad neighborhood. And I was taught early on that white people were my enemy. This is what's actually being taught in the black community. Back I just turned this past Saturday 57, but I'm like growing up in the 70s and early 80s, that everything bad that happens to me, I'm the victim. You know, it's because white people are holding me down. You know, it's not that, like I said, I'm the victim of the black community because I'm the one that was getting robbed, but it's white people's fault. And these so-called black leaders, they make money off you. They feed into that. So people grow up with this attitude. Because if you watch a lot of the earlier rap and gangster music when they came out, it's all about hatred. The man, meaning the police, not only the police, but the white community, is our enemy. But the truth of the matter is, I told you before, the biggest threat to the black community is the black community, which is ignorance. I didn't change my attitude until I left and joined the Air Force and saw the world and realized the world is a lot bigger than the hood. You see, because as long as you stick around people who feed into that narrative that, hey, everything bad that's happened to you is because of slavery, I'm like, you know what? I try to tell people at my age now, because I've lived long enough, and tell them, I said, you guys got to realize that black people were slaves themselves in Africa. Those are the ones who sold us out. So why are you getting mad at the white people here in America for slavery when you didn't get mad at the black people who sold you into slavery? You know, this victim mentality is always about, we got to get even. And so you saw it during the O.J. trial. O.J. was guilty. You know, it had a mostly black jury. And it was almost like we're getting even for all those times.
That's a great point. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Is Trump now going to go to war, I swear to you, with Chicago? This is an unbelievable story that is now unfolding. So, as you know, and this is why the media is trying to cover up what happened in Charlotte, we have a serious problem with crime. There's no question now. Okay, crime is out of control. And yes, this murder took place in Charlotte, but maybe the epicenter, ground zero of the crime epidemic that is plaguing this country is Chicago. Okay, Chicago. It is a killing field. Just last weekend, 7 dead, 19 wounded. Over the last couple of weekends, you're looking at nearly 20 dead, 74 wounded. It's like a war zone over there. And so Trump is now telling the mayor of Chicago, who presides over a sanctuary city, and the governor, who presides over a sanctuary state, Pritzker, that he no longer will tolerate this kind of mayhem, havoc, disorder, and criminality. And so Trump is now telling Chicago, in particular, get ready because the feds are coming. We put the National Guard in, he said, in Washington, D.C. As I mentioned in the last segment, crime is down across the board. D.C. is now safe again because of the National Guard troops. Now, Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, and this I find incredible, are firing back, saying, if you send in the National Guard, we will consider this, quote unquote, an invasion. Pritzker went even further. All right, so Pritzker, and by the way, would it kill him to eat a salad? But let that go, okay? There's Pritzker, who's showboating, trying to position himself for 2028. He's the guy that's going to stand up to Trump. He came out with an official statement saying that illegal aliens are, quote unquote, our friends and neighbors, and that he is ordering the Chicago police to do everything in their power to train illegal aliens to not get captured or caught by ICE. He then said, we are going to defend our friends and neighbors, and if Trump decides to order the National Guard, we will consider this an invasion of Chicago and an invasion of Illinois. Listen now, and the media now is picking up on this, that if you send in the National Guard, or if you send in more federal assets, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the FBI, ATF, in other words, federal officials to help crack down on crime, this is now a quote-unquote invasion. Listen now. This is Yamiche Alcindor. She's an NBC correspondent. She's now pushing this Democratic narrative that if you crack down on crime, if you go into sanctuary cities and start detaining and arresting and deporting criminal illegal aliens, you're actually invading them. It's an invasion. Roll cut 3. This is Trump on the White House lawn, confronted by this NBC hack. Roll cut 3, Mike.
That's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would you the Department of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
Okay, so the audio is not the best, obviously, because of the he was about to board a chopper. But she says, "Are you threatening to go to war with Chicago?" And Trump is like, he's dumbfounded. Go to war with Chicago? What are you talking about? We're trying to get the criminals off the streets. How is this going to war? And he says, "Darling, that's fake news." And then she says, "Well, why are you using the Department of Defense?" I guess now the Department of War, because Trump is renaming the Department of Defense what it used to be called, the Department of War. And he's like, "What are you talking about, the Department of Defense? We want to surge federal assets to go after the gangs, to go after the murderers, to go after the child molesters, to go after the drug dealers. Have you seen the stats in Chicago?" He goes, "I'm just talking about common sense crime control, common sense law and order." But that didn't stop. Listen now to this. Trump, another reporter, says, "Why are you going to war against Chicago?" And Trump, again, is, who's going to war? What is wrong with you people? Roll cut 3A, Mike.
Why? Let me ask you. Yeah. Really higher than Chicago? You know, excuse me. You know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You know how many people were killed in Chicago the week before? 7. You know how many people were wounded? 74 people were wounded. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
So now, this is what's happening. What the media and the Democrats are doing is so deceptive and so dishonest. Honestly, it just when you thought they couldn't get any lower, they've gotten lower. What they keep saying now is, well, the statistics show that crime is going down, that the crime rate is declining, so I don't know what Trump is talking about. No, the crime rate is not declining. Crime is not going down. Chicago is a killing field. It's because the police have been ordered to not arrest criminals because of the crazy moonbat mayors and their sanctuary policies and these soft on crime Soros DAs and these judges. So they're being told, don't arrest. And if they are arrested, they're released on cashless bail. And oftentimes, they're given either a slap on the wrist or they're just released back onto the streets, no punishment whatsoever. So obviously, if you're not arresting anybody and you're just letting them run wild, yeah, the statistics are going to say, well, crime is down. Well, sure, crime is down because you're not doing your jobs. You're not arresting criminals and putting them in jail. Now, anybody with half a brain, all you got to do is go to Chicago. Just go to Chicago. You're not safe on the south side. You're not safe on the north side. You're not safe on the west side, the east side, the downtown area. You're safe nowhere. And what I find incredible, this is to me incredible, why would Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, that's the mayor, and that sleazeball governor, why wouldn't you want federal help? Don't you want to have safer streets? Don't you want to protect your constituents and your citizens? Ay, ay, ay. Okay, let me ask all of you, because this is now the question that Trump is going to have to answer maybe in the next couple of days. Should he send in the National Guard, first to Chicago, then probably to New York, Atlanta, Charlotte, you name it, Los Angeles, they're already there in Los Angeles, but I mean in places like San Francisco and other places in Southern California where crime is completely out of control. And the mayors are tolerating it. They're even encouraging it. The Democrat governors are powerless. They want to do nothing to stop it. In fact, they're responsible for the rise in crime because of defunding the police, wanting not to arrest criminals, letting them roam the streets. Should Trump call in the National Guard? Or is he overreaching and usurping his constitutional authority, as they're arguing now, the media, the Democrats, and governors like Pritzker in Illinois? Now, the only thing I want to say is this, and then I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. The gall of Pritzker, seriously, the gall of that man. Illegal aliens are your friends and neighbors? That's who they are, according to him? And federal law enforcement are invaders? That's the term he's using now. Not just the National Guard. He says if Trump sends in the DEA or ATF or the FBI to try to really go after criminals and gangbangers and murderers in Chicago, they're going to be perceived as quote-unquote invaders. Never mind the National Guard. Pritzker says he will declare an invasion if Trump sends in the National Guard. And Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, said he will also declare it an invasion. So what do you want to do? You want what? Tell the police to shoot at the National Guard? What, you want riots to break out across Chicago? What do you want? People to set up barricades and start shooting at federal law enforcement or at National Guard troops? So the question I have for Pritzker is a very simple one. Tell me, when Kate Steinle was murdered, was the illegal who killed her, was that a friend and a neighbor? When Laken Riley was raped and murdered in the most horrific way possible, was that from a friend and a neighbor? When Joycelyn Nungare was brutally raped, gang raped, and then murdered and her body chopped up, tell me, was that from a friend and a neighbor? They are illegal aliens. They are criminal lawbreakers. They came into our country illegally. They have no right to be here. I don't care if they hold down a job, as Pritzker says. Some do, some don't. I don't care if they obey traffic lights. Some do, some don't. The fact is, they have no business being in Chicago, in Boston, in New York, any city in the United States of America. And that he would side with them against not just the federal government, but against federal law enforcement, against the National Guard? If no one else has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. He's an insurrectionist. He's a traitor. To me, this is the textbook definition of treason. And what to me is even more shocking, and again, maybe, Grace says I'm naive at times, and maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I have too much of a positive view of human nature. But when you look at the carnage in Chicago, my God, the shootings, how many years has this been going on? 5 dead, 7 dead, 10 dead, 12 dead, 8 dead every weekend. 50, 60 wounded over and over and over and over. And here comes the federal government to the rescue. And it's not even hypothetical or theoretical. Look at Washington, D.C., for God's sake. They brought the crime rate down. D.C. is now a safe city in 3 weeks? They turned it around in the snap of a finger. 3 weeks. You would think they would say, yeah, of course, please, come on in. We need all the help we can get. Instead, they're not even saying stay out. They're saying if you come in, it's an invasion. He's protecting illegal aliens. I'm choosing my words very carefully. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson are protecting illegals because those are their voters. That's why they're doing this. Those are the voters that they need to make sure the Democrats continue to run Chicago into the ground and continue their iron grip on power in the governor's mansion. And so they don't care how many people get murdered. And by the way, if you're into race, and I'm not, but if you're into race and the color of people's skin, the overwhelming majority of victims of this killing field are blacks. It's mostly black on black crime, although now you got a lot of illegal aliens. There's MS-13, there's Tren de Aragua. You've got a lot of gangs from Central South America now who are engaged in gang wars in black neighborhoods and killing many blacks as well. So that's starting to change. But the fact of the matter is that the overwhelming majority of people who are suffering from crime in that city are African Americans. The Democrats say they love African Americans. They say they're the party of blacks and African Americans. The mayor of Chicago is African American. So wouldn't he welcome federal law enforcement, federal relief, federal help? No. Instead, it's the opposite. My advice to President Trump: surge federal law enforcement into Chicago. Clean up that city the way you cleaned up Washington, D.C., and do it in major city after major city, because it's the right thing to do. And let me just make one last point, and then I want to go to the phone lines, I promise. There's a group of people in the United States, a class of people, that we routinely forget. They're almost never spoken of. And that's the working poor. And there are many working poor in major cities. Here in Boston, obviously, in Chicago, in LA, in Dallas, in Atlanta, in Miami. I could name you every city. And these are people who have too much self-respect and dignity to go on welfare, who are able-bodied and are not just going to sit around and collect a welfare check and watch, they don't watch Jerry Springer anymore, whatever they watch now on TV, okay? Whatever it is. They sit around watching TV all day and getting stoned. These people work hard. They value the dignity of a job. They pay taxes. They're law-abiding. They raise their families. The problem is they're the working poor. They don't have money to get out of some of these crime-ridden neighborhoods. They send their kids to schools overwhelmed with drugs, overwhelmed with crime, overwhelmed with gangs. They want safe streets. They want safe schools. They want safe neighborhoods. They don't want to live in a war zone. And unlike working class, middle class people, they don't have the financial means to just pick up and move to the suburbs. Who speaks for them? Who speaks for them? Donald Trump is now going to speak for them. MAGA is now going to speak for them. We are now going to speak for them. And so my advice to President Trump is you surge federal law enforcement in Chicago. They want a showdown at high noon? Give them a showdown at high noon. Let's see how tough Pritzker is. You call his bluff. You call Brandon Johnson's bluff. And the citizens of Chicago will rally to Trump. And in particular, like you're seeing now in Washington, D.C., this is a political phenomenon that the media is deliberately not reporting on. You have African Americans, blacks, who are now openly saying, we were conned by the Democrats. Trump cleaned up our streets in 3 weeks. They keep telling us it's impossible, and we vote in Democrat mayor after Democrat mayor. Year after year, term after term, it only gets worse. And my prediction, if Trump follows through on this, he is going to peel away the black vote, the African American vote, the minority vote, the poor vote away from the Democratic Party. Now, don't do it for political reasons. You do it because they're citizens of America. There are people, and they deserve help, and they need help. So you give them help. But I'm just telling you, the Democrats now, you want to talk about an 80-20 issue? You're going to fight federal assistance to clean up crime? Good luck. Good luck selling that to your constituents. Good luck, because I'll tell you this. They are begging for federal help on the south side of Chicago. And to see these poor working moms beg, that you see them on TV, on the media, I see them on Fox News, please, or at these school board meetings or whatever, saying, please, please, we need school resource officers. We need more police. They're preying on our kids. The drugs, the gangs, the criminals. We're afraid to walk the streets in the day, never mind at night. Go in hard and go in heavy. And if they want to call it a war on Chicago, no, you tell them it's a war on crime and criminals. And if Pritzker and Brandon Johnson obstruct, then you arrest them on the spot for obstruction of justice. In other words, this has got to end. So, if they want a showdown, give them a showdown. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff, and thank you to you all. Thank you very much for all of these topics. I called in earlier around the mental illness issue, and I just want to say couple of things I wanted to mention. By the way, I was away, and welcome back, and thankfully you're getting better and doing okay. I was away in France for 10 days, the time that you were away too, and had a wonderful time. But anyway, I wanted to say, let me just look at my notes here. First of all, the whole mental illness issue. My mother was in institutional mental hospitals a lot of my growing up years, in and out for like months at a time, and it was very important. I can't even imagine having her schizophrenic, manic depressive like side of her being a mother at home with us kids. Can't even imagine. So yes, I would very much say that we need the mental institutions back. When we call it mental illness, I really want to emphasize that it's actual spiritual illness. There's a lot of evil, there's a lot of demonic stuff in this, what's called mental. It's spiritual illness. And I just want to say that, it's very sick, it's very difficult, and these people should be put away and helped to the extent that that's possible. So I wanted to say again, so welcome back. I also wanted to say that tomorrow, my relatives in France, I have Armenian relatives in France. We had a wonderful time. There's going to be big protests in Paris and all over France tomorrow. So hopefully it'll be showing on the news because people are really, really devastated by the government and what's going on and the high prices, and they're going to be protesting all of that. So that's a side piece of information.
Well, no, I don't want to get sidetracked, but I guess it's happening all over Europe. When I was in Croatia, while you were in France, that's all the locals would talk to me about is how prices literally have doubled. That inflation is killing the middle class and the working class in that country because they converted completely to the euro. And the euro has destroyed Greece. It's destroyed Italy. It's destroyed France. It's destroyed Croatia. I don't know why every country in Europe wants to be on the euro. Because everyone that adopts it sees prices either double or triple. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. Now, to your earlier point, look, I think there's no question. You look at the tape of what happened in Charlotte on that light rail car and the Carlos Brown, the murderer. There's something demonic about him. I think there's no question. Trump called it evil. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but you look at him, the hatred in his eyes, the ferocity of his attack, the unprovoked nature of it. It's so harrowing. It's disturbing. It's truly disturbing. You see this poor woman who has got a baseball cap. She's got a phone. She's scrolling through her phone. She walks into the railway car. Now, he's already sitting down, but you can see him moving back and forth, shifting back and forth. He's restless. He's going to blow. He's like a volcano about to blow. And she just walks right by him, is literally staring at her phone. Like, you can't even say she gave me a dirty look or nothing. She's just staring at the phone. And then she just sits down in front of the guy. She just sits down. And I mean, she gently sits down. And she's just probably on her way to work or whatever she was going. And she's just scrolling on her phone, looking at her phone. She's oblivious to everything around her. And this guy, the way he just pulled out his pocket knife, like the way I just grabbed a pen now. Here, I'm just grabbing a pen. And I'm turning it on and off. And that's what he just takes out the pocket knife like it's nothing. And then he unfolds it. And then he stands over her. And you're looking at this and you're like, no, please don't. No. And he just, boom, boom, boom. 3 stabs to her throat. And the shock on her face, and she collapses on the ground. And there's blood everywhere. And his knife is dripping with blood. And then he just calmly walks away. Like he finished a chocolate bar, or a bag of chips. And just, threw it away. Just threw it out. And okay, I'm done. Let me walk around a bit. And maybe the most chilling thing of all, nobody does anything. To me, that's... if I see somebody getting stabbed, at a minimum, I don't know, I'm going to yell, I'm going to scream, I'm going to call 911, I'm going to, I'm not claiming to be a tough guy, but I mean, there would be some kind of a reaction. They looked at him like it was nothing. The only thing, again, watch the video. He walks, blood is dripping from his knife, and people are standing in the light rail car, and they're like, oh, it's going to fall on my feet. Like the blood is going to drip onto onto my shoes or onto my pants. And that's what they're worried about. And they're just like shuffling their feet like, oh, I don't want this. No one says there's a woman lying down in a pool of blood. No one says, what's this guy doing walking around with the knife dripping with blood? Like, hello? It's a spiritual malaise. I'm sorry. It's just... this is what happens to a society when you remove God. And it's not just in America. It's happening in Europe. It's happening all over the world. And again, I'll bring it all the way back to Chicago. I mean, have you no soul? Have you no conscience? Have you no decency? I'm talking about Pritzker and Brandon Johnson. Don't you care? How come Kuhner country, and in particular, me, Jeff Kuhner, I don't think I have an ounce of black blood. I'm not sure. I doubt it. But anyway, so I don't have an ounce of black blood. Why do I care about African Americans on the south side of Chicago getting slaughtered more than the black mayor of Chicago or the governor of Illinois, whose job it is to keep the streets safe? Why? Why is that? Like, to me, this should be an embarrassment. This should be, to me, Chicago is a national shame. It is one of the greatest cities, or at least it was, one of the greatest cities in America. Frankly, one of the greatest cities in the world. I've been to Chicago. I worked for, almost a year at a magazine north of Chicago. Chicago is an incredible city. My God, it has so much to offer. Now, it's just muggings, robberies, stabbings, shootings, you name it. They've turned Chicago into a third world hellhole. And to Pritzker and to Johnson, have you no conscience? Have you no decency? Don't you care? You know, Trump is supposedly the racist. He cares more about the blacks of Chicago and all the citizens of Chicago than the freaking mayor and the freaking governor. You can't make this up. And now, so if I want to go after gangs and drug dealers and murderers and child molesters, that's an invasion? Think how inverted, how perverse this is. It's satanic. So you want to protect murderers and rapists and gangbangers. Buddy, I don't know who's crazier. The guy who stabbed that girl, the Carlos Brown, or the governor of Illinois. I don't know which of the two I'd put in an institution first. So, no, I'm with you all the way on this, Verna. This is a moral, spiritual crisis that we're facing. 617-266-6868. Okay, it's on the table. Let me ask all of you, is it time for Trump to send in the National Guard to first Chicago and then eventually other cities around the country? He says he wants to do it. Democrats say it would be illegal and unconstitutional. He can only deploy the National Guard if it's requested by the governor of that specific state. And as far as Chicago is concerned, forget the governor. Both the governor and the mayor of Chicago say, you send in the National Guard, we will declare this an invasion. What say you? 617-266-6868. Dave in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Much better. Thank you, Dave.
Jeff, it's not an invasion. All Trump wants to do is take a nice broom and sweep up the streets, because the people who are supposed to be doing it ain't doing a damn thing about it. They're letting all these thugs get away with what they're doing, and everybody's tired of it. So it's going to be an invasion if the National Guard goes in or the feds go in. It's like, nah. People need to get their head examined, Jeff, because you get these. They want all this trouble to just continue like it was going on back in the old days. And Jeff, a lot of it that's going on right now, yeah, they should build more institutions. Down in Bridgewater, Jeff, there's a lot of space just sitting there where the criminally insane is. There's a lot of space they can build on to build more institutions and get them off the street and put them where they belong, Jeff. And a lot of space up in Concord, because Concord's totally empty, Jeff. Norfolk's totally empty. Put them all up there and put that space back to use and put them where they all belong.
Well, you know, Dave, you nailed it. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. That's what we used to do with the violently mentally ill. Again, I want to stress this. I'm not talking about, depression or anxiety or PTSD or bipolar, or we're not talking that at all. These are people who are schizophrenic, and even, there's mild schizophrenia and there's severe schizophrenia. These are severely, violently schizophrenic people. They're, look, I bet you if you interview that guy, DeCarlos Brown, the one that stabbed that poor Ukrainian woman, he's probably convinced that she was a devil or she was a demon. I mean, he kept calling the police over and over again, saying there's something wrong with me. There's man-made materials inside my body. I can't control myself. Some larger force has taken possession of me, causing me to do all these things. He's not right in the head, and he wants to hurt people around him. How do you keep a guy like that on the streets? I mean, this is so negligent, irresponsible, reckless. That's why ultimately I blame the judge as much as him. And you're dead on. We used to do this routinely in this country. And suddenly, in the 60s, everybody, liberation, personal liberation, the institutions are the problem, not people. And they just let them all out. They opened up the institutions. And by the way, that's when homelessness began to skyrocket. Because many, not all, but many of these homeless people are severely mentally ill. Many of them are schizophrenic. Like, they don't want to live in housing. They like to live on the streets. Now, others have drug abuse issues, alcoholism. I'm painting with a broad brush. But what I'm saying is that would take care of crime. It would take care of homelessness. It would take care of all this public disorder. So you're dead on. We used to do this. And our streets were completely safe. Our neighborhoods were safe. So if it worked before, it'll work again. But again, who stands in our way? The Democratic Party. Who stands in our way? Liberals and moonbats. And Dave, that's the problem. As always, Dave, I love it when you call. Thank you, my friend. And by the way, I'm sorry. This case screams the death penalty. I mean, I know the mentally ill should be institutionalized. That's my position. But this case in particular, it's on tape. We've got him dead to rights. There's no debate whatsoever. Not a scintilla of doubt. It was pure, cold-blooded murder. This case screams for the death penalty. Okay, but that's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Let's go to Roy in the great state of Oklahoma. Thanks for holding, Roy, and welcome.
Yes, President Trump should be sending in the National Guard wherever they're needed. And you were asking the audience if they have ever been a victim of, crime. Black on white crime.
Yes.
So, yes, I'm one of those. $130,000 worth, and it's Dunbles. And it was a year later when I went to cash in those precious metals that I was supposed to receive 2 packages. And I said, no, in your email to me, you said you were sending me a package. They said, no, Roy, we sent you 2 packages. And this is from Swiss America, a precious metal company out in Phoenix, Arizona. Anyway, I complained to the U.S. Post Office. I've told them about it. They're supposedly launching an investigation as of several months.
Wow. Roy, I'm up against a hard break. Can you please hang on? I'm going to come right back to you, Roy. I want you to finish your story. 617-266-6868 is the number. Just a quick clarification. We lost Roy, which is a shame because I wanted him to finish his story. But Sandy made a very good point to me off air, saying, Jeff, honestly, I don't know if the fact that the post office worker or the mailman delivery guy was black or African American had anything to do with it. It's a post office worker. I've had money sent to me in the post office and it gets stolen, by mail through the post office. It gets stolen. I'm always uneasy sending anything valuable through the mail. It's just temptation is temptation is temptation. So whether they're white, black, brown, whatever skin color, to me, if you've got something valuable, do not send it through the mail. Because I've been burned many, many times. And that's why I don't send precious metals. I don't send money, anything through the mail. Anything that can be stolen of value, don't send it through the mail. 61, just my advice, take it for what it's worth. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quickly. Many of you are asking, Jeff, why are Pritzker and Brandon Johnson willing to go to the wall? I mean, to the wall, to block Trump from sending in, forget the National Guard. Trump is saying, okay, fine, I won't send in the National Guard, but we'll send in DEA agents, Drug Enforcement Agency. We'll send in the ATF. How about some more FBI officials? So federal law enforcement work with state and local, and we can start making a lot of arrests. And never mind sending in ICE. And the obvious reason is, A, they want to protect the illegal aliens because that's their votes. They're protecting their voters. But another thing is they're protecting billions of dollars in money that they get through funding because they have all these illegals that they count as part of the census. And that's a lot of money for Democrats to steal. So they're protecting their voters, and they're making sure that the billions of dollars, the gravy train continues. That's why they don't want to see a federal presence, ICE or anything else, go into Chicago and not just crack down on crime, but deport criminal illegal aliens. So think how sick and perverse the entire system has become. They want criminals. They're giving them a safe harbor. They're protecting them openly. To Pritzker and Johnson and Democrats, the 20 million illegals that flooded our country under Biden, they're not invaders. No, 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 no. The quote-unquote invaders are ICE agents, the federal government, the National Guard, and federal law enforcement. So they put criminals above American citizens. They value foreigners over their own fellow people, over their own fellow Americans. When I say the world is inverted, ay, ay, ay. This is why the Democratic Party is becoming a minority extreme party. Pritzker is a radical Democrat. I think Brandon Johnson is even, I don't know how much more crazy you can get than this guy. He's far, far, far left, to the point now they're openly protecting and coddling criminals. That's why there's going to be no blue wave in 2026. You take this to the bank. Trump is beating them on issue after issue after issue. And just like flag burning, just like I could go on and on, you name the issue, it's an 80-20 issue for Trump. So my advice to him, crack down on crime, send in the National Guard. If Democrats want to protect gangbangers, murderers, and child molesters, let them. Because all they're doing is signing their political death warrant. Agree, disagree. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Buddy, how's everything? Nice to hear you back.
The ribs are getting a little better, Mark, day by day, and thank you for asking, my friend.
Good. You know, it was great to at least, Sandy was there and she held down the fort for you like she always does. She does a fantastic job. So, yeah, I look at this two ways. The Christian in me and the American in me says we have to help these people. We got to go in, we got to clean these streets up, we got to fix this mess. The other side of me says 52% of people in Chicago voted for this clown to be their mayor. 52% of the people in Chicago deserve what they're getting right now. The overwhelming majority of black voters voted for Brandon Johnson. This is what they vote for, Jeff. These are the people that they want to have in office. So part of me says, I don't feel bad for you. This is your fault. You people vote these people in. You believe their crap. They trope out this garbage every 4 years. As soon as they leave, the media and the politicians and the activists are going to be bringing up photos of, this poor black guy that was arrested. This poor black woman that was arrested, just to prove how racist this whole thing was. And these voters, Jeff, have short-term memory loss. And they'll go to the polls and they'll say, oh, you know what? They're right. These people are all racist. We got to elect the people who look like us and people who are promising us all this stuff. And it's going to be right back to how it was again in just a matter of like a year, Jeff.
So, Mark, I think what you're saying is, if, they made their bed, let them lie in it. If they're going to keep electing these leaders, then ultimately they get what they get what they deserve, correct?
Yeah, part of me does feel that way. And they sit there and they scream and they yell, why aren't you doing more about this? And when we try to, what happens? All these leftists come out with their protests and they occupy the streets and they scream about racism and they scream about fascism and totalitarianism. And the media buys it and runs with it and sells it to the people. And the people actually believe this crap. But, don't believe your own eyes. Believe what the media tells you. Believe what the politicians tell you, because they're honest with you, Jeff. They tell you the truth all the time. They don't want to see crime go down. The last thing they want is for Donald Trump to be successful in their city. If he goes in there and he cleans this mess up, just like Washington, D.C., they're still down there saying, get out, we don't want you, there is no crime. Yeah, there's no crime now because he kicked it all out. They don't want him going in there and having any success at all. They would rather have their cities on fire with people getting murdered every single day than to have one person helped by Donald Trump. Madness, Jeff.
Mark, let me ask you. You're right. It's madness. You're dead on. Look, Mark, I can't disagree with you. Honestly, I can't. Okay? Like I'm in the confessional. I can't. So I want to ask you this, just to push it to its logical end. Why? I'm not talking about the leadership. You're right completely about the leadership. The people, the residents who live in these blue cities, why do they continue to vote these Democrats back in? Think about it, Mark. If you or I were living in a crime-ridden neighborhood where they're dealing drugs on the streets, where you hear bullets flying at night, where you can't even send your children to school, where the gangs are roaming the streets, if we could get out, we would. If we can't get out, you and I would vote for a change in leadership. I know we would. So why don't they? What, do they like crime? No, seriously. Do they like having this kind of, as you said, the city's on fire? Do they like all this? Why don't they vote for a change, a real change?
Part of the problem is, Jeff, they have been, held on that plantation for so long. They have been kept basically locked up by the left for so long that they're so beaten upside the head that they can't see it for what it really is. This is just nothing but Democrats' shameless thirst for power and control of these cities. They know that with the control of these cities, they get control of a lot of votes. And if they can just keep them under their thumb and they can just keep feeding them these lies about how everyone that opposes them is somehow a racist, about everyone that doesn't look like them is an oppressor. That's what they've been taught for so many years now. And they've just bought it hook, line, and sinker. And, part of me doesn't blame them. Part of me has to look at it and say, these people live in horrible conditions. And, yeah, it's tough when a guy worth $1 billion comes in and says, look, I want to help you. A lot of them don't believe it. They'll believe the community advocate that lives down the street that looks like them.
Mark, as usual, home run. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Andy on Messenger. Jeff, we need to keep in mind the Democrats were depending on these illegal aliens to be their socialist army to replace the rest of us. That's a brilliant point, Andy. And I think that's another reason why you're seeing the sanctuary state governors like Pritzker and the sanctuary city mayors like Brandon Johnson, or in this case, right here in Boston, Michelle Wu, Marxist Michelle, fight Trump tooth and nail when it comes to these deportations. By the way, this news broke last night. Just all of you need to be aware of this. Pam Bondi, Attorney General, now has come out and said the Department of Justice is suing Michelle Wu, the city of Boston, for their sanctuary city policies, and they're now going to legally force them to coordinate and to work with ICE. So we'll see what comes of it, but anyway, they're going to court. The DOJ now is going to take Michelle Wu, and I'm sure many of these others of these blue city mayors, to court. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bob in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff, before I get to my point, one of your previous callers lost some gold in the mail. Well, how come I didn't lose my draft notice in the mid-'60s? You never lose. But as the problem goes, I see a couple of major things and some minor ones. Obviously, the drug problem we've had since the mid-'60s, everybody realizes that. But I think the other one is a thing called deinstitutionalization. You know, years ago, if somebody was severely mentally disturbed, they were put away. Well, we said, that's not nice. You know, we got to treat these people better. We'll get them a job flipping hamburgers or working in a cardboard box factory, you know, and in some cases it worked out okay. In many cases it didn't. I think what you're seeing now is the end result of, you know, an 18-year-old boy. He's no longer in high school. He's out in the street. He can't work for obvious reasons. And so they just do all these ridiculous, severe crimes. And I think it's the idea that, you know, we take them out of the institution and mainstream them. Well, I don't think it's working out, Jeff. What do you say?
Well, it's getting people killed. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It's getting innocent, decent, law-abiding people killed. And, you know, Bob, I've got to ask this to all the liberals, not you, obviously, but to all the liberals that are listening. So what, you no longer care about Ukrainians now? Notice, all of a sudden now, they don't care about Ukrainians. You know, the war with Russia, everyone's got their Ukrainian flag outside their house, on social media, on Facebook, on X. It's Ukrainian flags, blue and yellow everywhere. Now, this poor Ukrainian refugee gets her throat slit by this animal, cold-blooded murder. You can't get more of a horrific murder than this. And suddenly the media's quiet, liberals are quiet, Democrats are quiet, everybody's quiet. I mean, honestly, they're such phonies and frauds. Really, Bob, it's sickening. And look, you're right. That was the fundamental mistake when we opened up the institutions. Because now you've got very severely mentally ill people, some of them extremely violent, and they're roaming the streets. And look, take this judge. I want everybody to know her name, Teresa Stokes. This guy has a rap sheet, the man who killed this Ukrainian woman, DeCarlos Brown, as long as my arm. He's committed every crime you can think of. He beat his own sister to an inch of her life. His own mother was begging police and the courts, take him off the streets. My son is dangerous. He's not right in the head. And they just keep releasing him. And releasing them. And this judge released them again. Again. No cash bail and just released them. Now, too many of these liberal judges are releasing violent offenders, violently mentally ill offenders, And they think it's fun and games. It's not fun and games to Irina Zarutska. I mean, I'm looking at pictures of her and her family. I mean, they're heartbroken. Her friends, she actually made friends in the United States. They're all coming out and saying she worked very hard. She was really happy to be in America. She had a nice, bubbly, positive personality. She wanted to stay in America. She loved being in America. She suffered from the war. She fled the war between Russia and Ukraine. She came into this country legally, did everything the right way. And when you, again, I don't want to go back to the footage, but you go back to the footage, I can't think of anything more innocent. You see her with the baseball cap. She's got a phone, you know, like a young adult. They're all on the phones. And she's not even looking left or right. She's not bothering anybody. If anything, she's too engrossed in her phone in the sense of you should be more aware of your surroundings. You're being too trusting. And she sits down in the seat right in front of this guy. There's nothing more unprovoked than this. And this sicko, the look in his eyes, just his face, and to pull out that pocket knife the way he did, and so cavalierly, so casually, like I said, like he was eating a bag of potato chips. And then boom, boom, boom. 3 stabs right to the throat. And the horror on her face. And then again, she collapses. Blood is dripping from his knife. And Bob, nobody does a thing. Nobody does a thing. And Bob, look, if I can, be honest with you, like I'm in the confessional. Honest to God, I feel like a fool today. I really do, and I'll tell you why. Because when I went on the air yesterday, after being away for 2 weeks, first week was the vacation, then I busted up my ribs in a bus accident, and, last week I was just trying to recover with painkillers and ibuprofen and muscle relaxants, and anyway, the whole thing. I said yesterday that when I was on that bus in Croatia, and I flew off the steps because the idiot bus driver, slammed on the brakes, and I fell all the way down, and I really shattered my left side, and I'm lying there in agony, in agony. And nobody lifted a finger to help me. It was at least 10, 12, 15 minutes. I'm yelling, I'm screaming. I've never felt such pain in my life. Again, the only way I can describe it is a knife in my side, and you're just twisting and turning it. And all I'm thinking is, how come my son is losing his mind. Ashton was with me, and they were calming him down, and they were telling him to sit down. But outside of my son, obviously, I'm like, no one's even trying to help me. No one's even walking up to me and saying, are you okay? Do you need help? You're lying there on the floor in a packed bus, and nobody is blinking an eye. And then 5 minutes later, the bus driver comes and says, do you want me to call an ambulance? And I'm thinking, in this country? No way. Frankly, any European country. No way. No way, man. Get me back to America now. But I can't, as I'm sitting down, I got up, I sit myself down, and this is what's going through my head. I swear to you, God is my witness. If this was in America, people would get up, people would rush over, people would be around me, people would be saying, sir, do you need help? Sir, you want me to call 911? Sir, what's wrong? Can I help you? Can I do something? Can we hold him up? Can we give him a bottle of water? Can we give him something? I was convinced of it. I said, boy, they wouldn't be treating me like this in America. If this happened in America, my God, people would be getting up and helping me. Now I'm not so sure. Honestly, Bob, now I feel like a fool. Because I look at the footage and I see what happened on that light rail in Charlotte. And those weren't, fractured ribs. This was a slit throat. Nobody did a thing. To me, that's the other side of the story that's being neglected. How do you see someone commit a cold-blooded murder on the most innocent victim imaginable, and she's lying on the ground with blood spurting out of her arteries, and nobody rushes over to help, console her, talk to her, do something. Bob, something is changing. There's something in our culture. We can talk about it for hours and hours. I don't have the answers, but there's something going on because that is cold and callous. And honestly, now I feel like an idiot because now I'm not so sure. If I was on a bus in America and I fell off the steps and I banged my left side and I fractured my ribs, I don't know if people would get up and help me. I was convinced of it in Croatia. Now I'm not so sure after this story. So, look, that's why I love President Trump. Because you can tell he cares. He has a conscience. He has a heart. He's an American. And it breaks his heart to see fellow Americans being murdered and killed like this on a daily basis. And this could end. I mean, you're always going to have some crime. That's just life. But crime is out of control. And it's getting worse, not better. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And Trump is right. We continue down this road, we're not going to have a country. You're going to have a third world hellhole. And notice how brazen. He was so brazen because he was released from the system again and again. He knifes her in the throat 3 times and he walks around like he did nothing. I bet he's shocked that he was arrested because he kept getting arrested and they kept releasing him. And they kept arresting him and then releasing him. So he beats the daylight out of his sister. He goes around assaulting people, holding stores up, with a gun. I mean, it's crime after crime after crime. And never any consequences. So now he graduated to murder. So, Bob, I'm telling you, today it's Irina Zarutska. Tomorrow it could be you or it could be me. Final word to you, Bob.
Well, I agree with you. You stand a better chance in this country than you would any other country. However, the one thing you don't mention, Jeff, is that if that was me and I saw that and I took out my gun and I shot that guy, you know what would happen? I'd be getting a registered letter from Morgan & Morgan because I would be sued for wrongful death. That's the problem in this country. Okay? You got to touch on that, is that when you do help somebody out in a violent crime like that, their relatives are going to sue you if the guy dies for a wrongful death. And that shouldn't be allowed.
Well, you're dead on. You're dead on. You know, Bob, in fact, you're not just 100, you're 1,000% correct. And I think you're even underplaying it. I agree with you. Please don't get me wrong. I think you may be arrested like Daniel Penny was in New York. I think you may be, seriously, if Bob Insaugus is armed, right, legally he has a right to carry, concealed carry, and he shoots this guy in defense of this Ukrainian woman, they'd come and they'd put you in handcuffs and they'd probably haul you off to jail. You'd be fighting for your life. You'd be fighting to keep yourself out of prison for the rest of your life. Bob, am I wrong? On top of the lawsuit. Bob, am I wrong?
Absolutely right. It's the whole thing is turned around. In my other statement, our question is, Jeff, what's going to happen when the federal troops finally leave? Do you not think it'll start all over again? I mean, stop and think about that.
You're right. No, Bob, look, you're right. I think this is the hope that Trump has. And I mean, this is why I admire him, because he's willing to try things that others aren't willing to. He's going to go down to Chicago like he's going to Washington, D.C. And he's going to say, you see, they said you couldn't fix the crime problem, that you have to live with this for your whole life. You don't. I fixed it. Now, if you want to see the crime problem stay permanently solved, then vote for MAGA Republicans. Vote for Trump Republicans. Or else it's going to be just as bad as it was before I sent in the federal troops. So I think what he wants to do, Bob, is clean up Chicago and then go to the voters there, the constituents, the residents, and say, you see, You've been told your whole life, nothing can change. I just changed it. Now, if you want to keep it this way, vote for me and vote for people like me. Or else you have no one else. That now you really have no one else to blame but yourself. Because you know there's a better way. I showed you there's a better way. And if you want to vote for the better way, then don't come crying to us. So, yeah, they're going to get rid of the troops they're going to withdraw the troops from Washington, D.C. But now the residents of D.C. have to ask themselves, do we still want to keep voting in Democrats? Because there's a Republican in the White House who just showed us we can have law and order and peace on our streets. But we got to vote for him. So, in other words, we're going to help you once. We're going to clean it up once. So you can't say you don't know there's a better way. There is an alternative. But now it's up to you. Bob, final word to you.
Well, I have to agree with that. It's just that, I see all these troops coming in, and, Boston's on the list, supposedly. And I'm just wondering, when they leave, are these people going to go, okay, we got to start electing the proper people for law enforcement and change the rules a little bit, or is it just going to go back, 2 weeks later, we're back to the same problem? See, that's my main concern.
Oh, you're dead on. Look, Bob, then they have no excuses. Don't come. I don't want anybody in D.C. or let's say Trump does pull the proverbial trigger and sends in, the federal troops or federal officials into Chicago and he cleans up Chicago. It's been, 30 years now I've been hearing about Chicago being a bloodbath. I mean, it's gone on for so many decades now. People, I think, are just so used to it. They're numb to it. They just think it's part of life. So you're shown a better way. Now it's up to you. Now, if you don't want to change, then don't ever complain again. You can't say that there wasn't a better way. There was. You just don't want to vote for it. So then you have nobody to blame but yourself. And look, I'm telling you, Bob, mark my words. You can see it on social media. I can tell in emails. There are many more African Americans now that are voting for Trump or coming on the MAGA bandwagon. And it's not just black men. Black men voted for Trump in the last election. Black women, younger black voters, minority voters. What Trump is doing, slowly, he's opening people's eyes. Because I'll tell you, the big story in Chicago is, in Chicago, people are asking themselves, why doesn't our mayor want to cooperate with the feds? I'm sorry, why is our governor calling the feds coming in to clean up crime and gangs and drugs? Why is he calling that an invasion? So their eyes are starting to be opened like, I don't think they want to fix the problem. And Trump clearly is seen as wanting to fix the problem. So the Democrats better be very careful. Their arrogance is going to bring them down. They think they have a permanent lock on the black vote. I'm not so sure. We'll see, but I'm not so sure. I can tell the text messages I get, the emails I get, people who contact me. Jeff, I'm black, whatever. I'm Latino, I'm whatever. I used to be a lifelong Democrat. No more. I'm with Trump. And the number one issue is crime. The number two issue is immigration. On crime and immigration, Trump is killing the Democrats. Bob, thank you very, very much for that call. Excellent call. Tom in the great state of Ohio. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, that mayor of Charlotte is disgusting. I mean, if you looked at the statements that she made about, she went to the media or said she praised the media because they didn't show the footage because, quote, it would be disrespectful to the young lady and her family. What is this? Is this the new shield now that they're going to hide behind? It's just unbelievable that she would have that position. But you know what, Jeff? She's a moonbat. Jeff, I used to live in Charlotte for about 8 years before I came back to Ohio, and I know where that line goes. And there is an honor system there. There's no turnstiles. So what I mean by that is you buy a ticket, allegedly, you pay for it, and then you get on to the light rail. And it runs a couple miles from downtown to South Charlotte. And there's no guards, there's no security on there. One of the city council people, because I got buddies that still live down there, wrote it.
Tom, I'm up against the break. Please, I want you to finish this. Hang on. I'm going to come right back to Tom. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Tom in Ohio. Tom lived in Charlotte for several years. In fact, what was it, 8 years? He said he knows that light rail, that line that the light rail went on, in which DeCarlos Brown murdered, stabbed to death that young 23-year-old Ukrainian immigrant refugee. He was going on about the city council. Please, Tom, pick up where you left off. You said this is near the downtown area. It's several miles long where you can take the rail. It's on an honor system. People, you have to pay, get your own ticket. There's no guards. There's no police. There's no security whatsoever. Please pick up where you left off, Tom.
Yeah, Jeff. So as it's the area that she was in, it's just south of a very Tony area called Dilworth in South Charlotte. So there's been a lot of development along there. But the thing that really disturbs me the most, Jeff, is what, you've asked some of the callers, and I think the last gentleman just commented about, where were the people to help him? It's the adage, see something, say something. I think nowadays, and you know what, I'm not being racist, but I think white folks, they're not going to say anything. Because you know what, Jeff, in this situation right here, it's black privilege. The oppressed can never be the oppressor. That's what the left will tell you. So this guy was a victim because of economic, social injustice, climate change, whatever the hell they want to say it is. But the fact of the matter is that guy should have never been out. He should have, Teresa Stokes, whoever the magistrate was, that guy should have never been out. And I heard the video that Arthur talked about that he saw last night on one of the shows. I heard that on X where the guy's saying, I got the white girl. I got the white girl. And he's taken off his jacket or his hoodie and his shirt and everything, and he's just mumbling along. I mean, it's disgusting what is taking place in the world. And I go back to November of 2008, Jeff, and I've said this to you before, that ill-fated day in Grant Park where he stood up there and said, I'm going to fundamentally transform the United States of America. Give me Michael Brown, give me Trayvon Martin, give me George Floyd. Hell, the one gentleman said, look at Daniel Penny. Hell, the Maryland man got more TV coverage on the deportation than this poor girl did. But why? Because we can't disrespect her family. See, I think that's the new shield, Jeff, that it's pathetic.
I can't disagree with you. I think you're clicking on all cylinders. And look, the question now is, are we so cowed? Are we so browbeaten that we're just going to continue to allow this to continue? This kind of decline, social, moral decay and decline, where crime gets worse and worse, people get killed, people get shot. Now they're stabbing people on railway cars, people in the park. That poor Auburn professor, the retired Auburn professor who used to jog in the park every day. In the middle of the day, again, African-American, a thug with a long rap sheet, should have been in jail. Instead, he didn't just stab her to death. He hacked her up. He cut her up, sliced her up into pieces. And, and they just find the dead body, and there's the dog guarding the owner, the dead owner. I mean, is this the kind of society we want to live in? In other words, do we have, Tom, the spiritual fortitude, the moral clarity to turn this around and reverse this decline? I think that's the question. What say you?
I say no, Jeff, based on the leadership that we've got. And outside, you look at a lot of these blue cities and these blue states. And I'm going to give you an example right here, Jeff, and it's a slight bit tangential, but you've been on top of this. This Cincinnati beatdown, I don't know if you've been following anything after it, but they are all, the city council is all black. So they've arrested 7 blacks, 2 women, 5 guys. And the city council started grousing about, why do all the perpetrators look like me? Why are they all of my color? So the prosecutor, the chief of police said that's who the perpetrators were. Well, there's a picture of Alex Stravinsky. He's a 45-year-old guy that got beat to death, white guy. So they now arrested him for misdemeanor assault because he slapped one of them in one of the videos. So our metrosexual mayor, Aftab Pirabal, was silent. They never condemned the beating of this white guy and this white gal. So they won't come out and voice their disgust over their own race. But yet, now they're taking this guy, they're going to take him to court. And I listened to his attorney the other week in an interview. He said, I'm going to take this all the way to the Department of Justice. He said, this is ludicrous.
Oh, well, he was defending himself, right? They were beating him up, and, right, he slapped one of them in self-defense, and they're trying to, claim that he's also as guilty as the 7 who beat him up, correct?
Bingo, Jeff. And here's the thing, and getting back to the question you asked me. Until those black city council people stand up and say that they condemn that behavior, it's never going to change. It just won't.
Tom, drop the mic. The callers have been on fire today, really. Carrying the show. I'm serious. Outstanding call, Tom. 617, thank you very much. 617-266-6868. Okay, just very quickly, Transportation Secretary Duffy has now come out and said they're going to do an investigation in that killing at the Charlotte light rail. Okay, fasten your seatbelts because you're not going to believe this. I'm going to have to play the cuts because you're not going to believe me. You want to see Trump derangement syndrome on steroids. When I say the Democrats have gone insane, I mean they've gone insane. So one of the reasons, this is J.B. Pritzker now, the governor of Illinois, one of the reasons why Pritzker is claiming he doesn't want National Guard troops to be sent to Chicago to clean up all the crime and the murder and the drugs and everything else is because, according to him and the media and the Democrats, listen to this, this is the act, in Pritzker's words, of a wannabe dictator. That Trump is sending in military troops to occupy Chicago and Illinois and to therefore interfere and steal the elections in 2026 and in 2028. In other words, it's a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship. So he's not really sending in the National Guard, federal troops. No, that's not to take on the gangbangers and put away the murderers and the rapists. No, he's going to have the military interfere in the elections. They're going to take control of the machines. They're going to steal the election. 2026, 2028. He's going to make himself dictator for life. Wee-oo. Wee-oo. Listen to Pritzker. This was him on MS Left BC. Roll cut 4, Mike.
We know what it's about, and it has nothing to do with fighting crime. And it has, honestly, sending National Guard in has nothing to do with immigration either. What it has to do with is he's trying to set the stage for interference in the elections in 2026 and in 2028.
He's insane. I'm telling you, he's stone cold crazy. And they go on about conservatives and Trump supporters being quote-unquote conspiracy theorists. We're the conspiracy theorists. And notice, nobody at that clown show of a network asked the obvious question. Whoa, 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 whoa. Where's your evidence? Like, I'm sorry. How is the military going to interfere in the elections? Like, how? Tell me, how are they going to interfere and steal the elections? Like, do you have a shred of evidence for this incendiary, reckless, and preposterous claim? Like, what do you guys just make stuff up at the top of, the top of your head? But everything now is about Trump being a dictator. So listen now to this. This is the senator from Illinois, Senator Tammy Duckworth, hardcore Democrat, radical moonbat. She goes on MSNBC. Now, you remember that strike that was conducted recently by the U.S. military against a boat, a drug boat, controlled by Tren de Aragua, and it killed 11 of these narco-terrorists from Venezuela. Well, listen now to her saying, you know why he launched that strike? Maybe because he's declared Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization and they were smuggling drugs into the United States. So they wanted to send a message. Maybe that's why. No. He's using the military to steal the elections. Roll cut 5. Mike.
No, it's not legal. I also think that this is just the first step towards him potentially setting the groundwork to do something within U.S. territory. So he's doing it in international waters now, but what is he? What's next? An American in our territorial waters on U.S. soil? What exactly is next? I agree with the discussion that's already been ongoing. This president is setting the conditions so that he can actually unilaterally occupy the streets of our cities and interfere in the next election, do what he wants. And I am absolutely disgusted with my Republican colleagues who, on top of confirming the likes of Pete Hegseth and Secretary Kennedy, are not holding them accountable. We have a chance here to stop them. I hope that my colleagues will step forward and stop them, but let's see what they're going to do. So far, all they've done has been collaborators and co-conspirators in the Trump attempts to basically undermine the basic law and order of our nation.
Are you off your meds, lady? Like, really, that's the. I mean, really, do you have to get back on your meds, or should we send you to the rubber room? So let me get this straight. When Obama launched drone strike after drone strike, and he wiped out wedding parties, you want to talk about killing innocent civilians? You guys had no problem. When Joey would launch drone strikes, say against the Houthis, and innocent civilians were killed, by the way, you guys didn't say a word. But now Trump takes on narco-terrorists, by the way, Tren de Aragua, who have been operating here in the United States, sex trafficking, human trafficking, fentanyl, killing 100,000 Americans every single year. And they're tied to the hip with that anti-American Marxist thug Maduro, who has run Venezuela into the ground. Okay, that dictator, that butcher. Suddenly now, he takes them out, a drug boat, and kills narco-terrorists. By the way, a designated foreign terrorist organization. And from this, he's going to put the military on the streets. He's going to occupy the United States. He's going to steal the election and make himself dictator for life. Lady, you are, I got to be careful here. I almost said the F-bomb. Lady, you are freaking crazy. You're crazy. What is it? Is it the water in Illinois? Like, what the hell is going on? I don't know who's crazier. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, Pritzker, the governor, or this senator. So look at the fear-mongering. Look at the hysteria. Look at the lies. This is incitement. I mean, we're not talking about they're exaggerating, they're being melodramatic. No. They're literally, you want to talk about propaganda, as the Russians would put it. You want to talk about let's lie through our teeth to frighten and scare the hell out of our constituents and the people of Chicago and Illinois. It's not about illegal aliens. No, It's not about crime. No. It's an invasion. Well, what do you mean? He's coming in to occupy us, steal the elections, make himself Kadil, military strongman, dictator, a la Saddam Hussein, a la Hitler. You're going to see riots. You're going to see attacks on ICE agents. You're going to see, if he sends in the National Guard, you're going to see people go after the National Guard. They are fomenting violence on the streets of Chicago. This is so irresponsible and reckless and incendiary, it's not even funny. And the media is aiding and abetting them every step of the way. So you have to ask yourself, what are they so afraid of? And I'll tell you what they're afraid of. That Trump will be successful. That he will do to Chicago what he did in Washington, D.C. And that they'll do it in city after city after city. And this will unmask and expose the absolute incompetence and failure of democratic rule and democratic government. So they'd rather burn the whole freaking country down than for them to be exposed for the charlatans and the frauds that they are. Now, if you don't want troops to go in, the National Guard, to go into Chicago, okay. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. Derek in Boston. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm very good. How are you, Derek?
I'm very well. This is my first time calling.
Welcome, Derek. Welcome.
The reason why I'm calling, I don't reside with people that don't make sense. Everything you said on this radio make a lot of sense, and I just want to add to it. I don't know how many minutes I have, but I only have 10 minutes. I'm going to make it quick. So, I was a bus driver for which is mass-based transportation, and I see a lot of people being assaulted as a bus driver, and I try to make it easy for people to able to ride without being so that I cannot be assaulted. However, people don't want change. Donald Trump, which is my president, I love everything he's doing. He gives people opportunities and said, if you leave this country, we'll give you $1,000. People don't know how to use their brain. He gives people a lot of opportunities that they can make a self-decision. However, right now, I have a mental breakdown due to these crises that are going on. But that doesn't give me the right to go assault somebody or kill anybody. Everybody needs to eat their own. If you want to kill something, go and get it and kill yourself. And then you cannot go and assault. I came here as a refugee. I wanted to leave Boston to another state. By watching whatever happened to that young lady on the train, and I see that happen every day, that gives me a lot of goosebumps. I don't even know where to run to. And Trump is not doing anything wrong. He gives everybody opportunity that they can find a way to leave in the easy way. But people don't listen. People think violence is going to take it. No. We all just want change. I wasn't here for Obama time, but he said you can. I've been trying. He said you can. All I understand is we're gonna try. And I tried doing Obama time, but I did not find money. However, Trump came in. He offered people opportunity to. I just want to say that I recognize. My English is not my first language, but everything you said, I'm very.
No, Derek, you listen. Your English is fine. Believe me, and we hear you loud and clear. And look, Derek, you're completely right. Trump is trying to create an opportunity society. He wants to see everybody, regardless of their race, color, gender, religion, you name it. He wants everybody to rise. That is the Make America Great Again movement. That's what we're all about. That's what Trump is all about. And you're right. He wants to give everybody an opportunity. And to me, the reason why the Democrats are trying to block him at every turn and attack him nonstop is because they fear that he'll be successful. And if he's successful, then as a political party, they're going to go into the dustbin of history. And that's what's starting to happen. The Democrats are imploding. The Democrats are breaking apart in front of our eyes. And again, I could run down issue after issue, whether it's the border, whether it's immigration, whether it's crime, whether it's burning the flag, whether it's, just name the issue. It's now 80-20 Trump against the Democrats. Only 20% of the country supports the Democrats on these key issues. So this is what Trump is doing. He's actually politically, he's brilliant. So he keeps bringing up issues that he knows the Democrats are going to do the exact opposite. I mean, you have to be crazy to be the mayor of Chicago or frankly the mayor of Boston. It doesn't matter. And say, you don't want federal help to clean up the streets and put criminals in jail? Like, if you're a mayor and you have safe streets and clean streets, and you've taken out the drug dealers and the murderers and the rapists and the child molesters, you're going to get reelected. Like, hello? So this is what Trump is doing. He's forcing the Democrats, because they're so consumed by their hatred for him, this Trump derangement syndrome. Look, if he said, I want to cure cancer, they'll come out and say, no, we love cancer. You can't cure cancer. We have to all have cancer. That's the insanity now that has taken hold of that party. And so my prediction, Trump is going to win big in the midterm elections. I think J.D. Vance is going to be his successor, the vice president. I think he's going to continue Trump's legacy in 2028. And we're now staring at a generation of MAGA rule. And you give MAGA 10 years in power, and America will truly be great again for everybody, Derek, including you, my friend. Derek, thank you very much for that call. Bob in Newton, I hate to do this to you, Bob. 1 minute left. The floor is yours. Go.
Great. Then one point. To fix a lot of these problems, we need to eliminate immunity for judges. If they're negligent or criminal, they should be subject to being personally sued. If your doctor or your engineer or your lawyer is negligent, they get sued. I'm not talking about a simple ruling like, oh, they should have admitted that evidence or not. But when you have somebody like the judge in New York who has now been held to have violated the Eighth Amendment with his decision in the Trump case, that he should be subject to personal lawsuit for that. You get a judge who
let this killer go, the one in Charlotte. I'm with you. Bob, I wish you'd have more time, but we're up against it. It's a perfect way to end the show. I love it.